My name is Rebecca Mitchell, 29 years old, and the wedding I spent 2 years planning almost fell apart when my fiancé's sister decided my custom dress would make a perfect Halloween costume. After spending $8,000 and countless hours with the designer creating the perfect gown, Kayla returned it soaking wet, wine-stained, and torn beyond repair just 3 weeks before our wedding day. She thought a simple, "sorry," would fix everything, but this time she went too far. The consequences were far beyond what anyone could imagine. Before I continue my story, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Like and subscribe for more family secrets nobody talks about. I met Daniel 4 years ago at a charity event in Boston. He was charming, successful, and came from what seemed like a perfect family. His parents, Richard and Martha, welcomed me with open arms, but his younger sister Kayla always seemed to have an issue with me. At first, I thought it was just typical protective sister behavior. She was 19 when we met, about to start college, and I understood her hesitation to accept someone new in her brother's life. Our relationship was cordial, but distant. I made countless efforts to bond with her, shopping trips, lunch dates, even helping with her college applications. Nothing seemed to work. There was always this underlying tension whenever we were in the same room. Daniel noticed it too, but he always dismissed it as just how Kayla is. According to him, she had always been somewhat difficult, especially after their mother's battle with cancer years earlier. I tried to be understanding, but sometimes her behavior crossed lines that shouldn't be crossed. When Daniel proposed on our second anniversary, I was ecstatic. We set the date for November 12th, giving us plenty of time to plan the perfect autumn wedding. I threw myself into the preparations, determined to make our day special. The dress was my priority. I'd always dreamed of walking down the aisle in something unique, something that would take Daniel's breath away. I found a small boutique in downtown Boston, owned by an Italian designer named Sophia. The moment I walked in, I knew I'd found the right place. Sophia and I spent months perfecting my dress, a stunning off-shoulder creation with intricate beadwork, delicate lace, and a champagne undertone that complemented my skin tone perfectly. It cost more than I'd initially budgeted, but Daniel insisted it was worth every penny. "You only get married once," he said with that smile that always melted my heart. The dress was finally ready just 2 months before the wedding. I kept it at my parents' house, safely tucked away in their spare bedroom closet. I didn't want Daniel to accidentally see it before the big day. Every time I visited, I would try it on, making sure everything was perfect. My mother would tear up each time, saying she'd never seen a more beautiful bride. As the wedding approached, the tension with Kayla seemed to escalate. She complained about her bridesmaid dress, questioned my choice of venue, and even suggested we should postpone the wedding until she finished her first year of college so she could fully participate. Daniel and I brushed off these comments, focusing instead on our excitement for the big day. The week before Halloween, I was swamped with last-minute wedding preparations. My parents were away on a short trip to visit my grandmother, who wasn't well enough to travel for the wedding. They gave me their house key so I could check on things and, of course, visit my dress. I was so busy I didn't make it over there for almost a week. When I finally went to check on the dress, my heart stopped. The garment bag was there, but it felt lighter. With trembling hands, I unzipped it, praying I was just being paranoid. But my worst fears were confirmed. The dress was gone. In its place was a hastily scribbled note. "Borrowed the white dress in here for a costume party. Will return tomorrow. K." I called Daniel immediately, barely able to speak through my panic and tears. He rushed over, and we waited together for Kayla to answer her phone. She didn't pick up until the next morning. When she finally called back, her casual tone made my blood boil. "Oh yeah, I needed a ghost bride costume for this Halloween party at college. Your dress was perfect. Don't worry, I'll bring it back today." Daniel took the phone from my shaking hands. "Kayla, tell me you didn't take Rebecca's wedding dress to a college Halloween party." There was a pause, then a defensive, "What's the big deal? It's just sitting there doing nothing. I'm not going to hurt it." That was Friday morning. We arranged to meet Kayla at my parents' house that evening so she could return the dress. Those hours of waiting were some of the longest of my life. Daniel was unusually quiet, a storm brewing behind his normally calm eyes. I could tell he was finally seeing his sister's behavior for what it was, not just difficult, but deliberately hurtful. When Kayla finally arrived, 6 hours later than promised, my world shattered all over again. She walked in holding a plastic garbage bag, not even the original garment bag. "Sorry I'm late," she said with a shrug. The party got wild. I stood frozen as Kayla dropped the garbage bag on my parents' pristine living room floor. The weight of it made a damp sound against the hardwood. Damp. My wedding dress was damp. "What did you do?" I whispered, afraid to even look inside the bag. Daniel stepped forward, his face a mask of controlled anger. He knelt down and carefully opened the bag, pulling out what used to be my dream wedding dress. The damage was catastrophic. The once pristine white fabric was now soaked through with what smelled like a mixture of alcohol and rainwater. Large red wine stains bloomed across the bodice and skirt like violent flowers. The delicate beadwork that Sophia had painstakingly sewn by hand was partially ripped off, with several sections hanging by threads. One of the sleeves was completely torn at the seam, but worst of all was a 6-inch rip straight through the skirt, exposing the layers of tulle and silk underneath. "Oh my God," Daniel breathed, carefully laying the ruined dress on the couch. His hands were shaking. Kayla stood by the door, her expression a mixture of defiance and the first hint of realization that she might have gone too far. "It's not that bad," she said, though her voice lacked conviction. "Can't you just get it cleaned or something?" I couldn't speak. 3 weeks before my wedding, and my custom-made dress, the one I'd spent months designing, the one that had been crafted specifically for me, was destroyed. I felt like I was drowning, like all the air had been sucked from the room. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Daniel finally turned to face his sister, his voice low and dangerous. I'd never heard him speak like that before. "This isn't some off-the-rack dress she can replace. This was custom-made. It cost thousands of dollars and months of work." Kayla's face flushed. "Well, how was I supposed to know it was that expensive? Nobody spends that much on a dress they wear once." I found my voice then, though it came out strangled and raw. "You knew exactly what you were taking, Kayla. You left a note. You didn't ask permission. You stole my wedding dress for a Halloween costume." "I didn't steal it," she shot back. "I borrowed it, and I said I was sorry. What more do you want from me?" Daniel stepped between us, his back rigid with tension. "What happened to it? Tell me exactly how it got like this." Kayla sighed dramatically, as if we were overreacting to a minor inconvenience. "The party was at this frat house. Someone bumped into me and spilled their drink. Then later we all went out to the yard when it started raining because it looked fun. I didn't think it would be a big deal." "And the rip?" Daniel pressed. "I don't know. Maybe when I was dancing? Or when I had to climb over the fence because someone locked us out as a joke." She shrugged again. That same dismissive gesture that made my hands clench into fists at my sides. Daniel was silent for a long moment, just staring at his sister like he was seeing her for the first time. Then he pulled out his phone. "I'm calling Dad." Panic flashed across Kayla's face. "What? No, don't involve them. I said I was sorry." "Sorry doesn't fix this, Kayla." He dialed the number, putting it on speaker. Richard answered on the third ring. "Daniel? Everything okay, son?" "No, Dad, everything is not okay." Daniel's voice was steady, but I could hear the strain beneath it. "Kayla took Rebecca's wedding dress without permission to use as a Halloween costume. She brought it back destroyed, soaking wet, stained with wine, and ripped." There was a long silence on the other end. When Richard spoke again, his voice was tight with disappointment. "Put your sister on the phone." Kayla took the phone, suddenly looking much younger than her 19 years. "Dad, it was just—" "Stop talking and listen to me very carefully," Richard cut her off, his voice carrying clearly through the speaker. "What you did was not just irresponsible. It was cruel and selfish. Do you understand that?" "But Dad—" "No buts. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to apologize to Rebecca properly, then you're going to pay to replace the dress. Kayla's eyes widened. I can't afford that. I'm a college student. Then you'll get a job, Richard said firmly. And until the dress is paid for in full, your mother and I will be reevaluating our financial support for your extracurricular activities. That's not fair, Kayla exploded. It was just a stupid dress. I felt like I'd been slapped. Just a stupid dress? The symbol of the most important day of my life? The culmination of months of planning and dreaming, reduced to just a stupid dress. Daniel took the phone back. Dad, I'll call you back later. We need to figure out what to do about the wedding now. After he hung up, the three of us stood in tense silence. My mind was racing, trying to process not just the loss of my dress, but the callous way Kayla was dismissing it. This wasn't just about fabric and beads. It was about respect, about boundaries, about whether I could truly become part of this family. We have 3 weeks, I finally said, my voice steadier than I felt. I'll call Sophia tomorrow, see if there's anything she can do. Maybe she can rush a replacement. Daniel nodded, placing a gentle hand on my shoulder. Whatever it costs, we'll figure it out. I said I was sorry, Kayla muttered, arms crossed defensively across her chest. I don't know what else you want me to do. Daniel turned to her, something resolute hardening in his expression. Actually, Kayla, I know exactly what you're going to do. What do you mean? Kayla asked, suddenly wary of the change in her brother's demeanor. Daniel pulled out his phone again, but this time he opened his banking app. Do you remember when Mom and Dad set up that college fund for you? The one that I've been contributing to for the past 5 years? Kayla's defiance faltered. What about it? I'm a co-signer on that account, Daniel said, his fingers moving across the screen. I just froze the funds. You can't do that! Kayla's voice rose in panic. That's my money for school. No, Daniel corrected her calmly. That's money that Mom, Dad, and I have been saving for your education. Money that you clearly don't appreciate, just like you don't appreciate the significance of what you've done here today. I watched this exchange in shock. In the 4 years I'd known Daniel, I'd never seen him take such a hard stance with his sister. He had always made excuses for her behavior, always given her the benefit of the doubt. But standing there, looking at my ruined wedding dress, something had finally snapped. The funds will remain frozen until you pay for the replacement of Rebecca's dress, he continued. Every single penny. How am I supposed to do that? Kayla demanded, tears welling in her eyes. The first genuine emotion she'd shown since arriving. I don't have that kind of money. Like Dad said, you'll get a job. And until the dress is paid for, you can forget about that spring break trip to Cancun that Mom and Dad were planning to pay for. You can forget about your shopping allowance. You can forget about the new laptop you wanted for Christmas. Kayla looked stunned, like she couldn't believe this was actually happening. For years, she'd acted with impunity, secure in the knowledge that her family would always forgive her, always clean up her messes. Now, finally, there were consequences. You're choosing her over your own sister? Kayla whispered, tears now falling freely. Over a dress? Daniel shook his head, disappointment evident in every line of his face. This isn't about choosing sides, Kayla. This is about you learning that actions have consequences. You deliberately took something precious that didn't belong to you, and you destroyed it. And now you need to make it right. For a moment, I thought Kayla might actually understand. I saw a flicker of shame cross her face, but then her expression hardened again. Fine, she spat. I'll pay for the stupid dress, but don't expect me at the wedding. With that, she stormed out, slamming the door behind her with enough force to rattle the windows. The silence she left in her wake was deafening. I sank onto the couch beside my ruined dress, the reality of the situation crashing over me in waves. 3 weeks until our wedding, no dress, and family drama that threatened to overshadow what should have been the happiest day of our lives. Daniel sat beside me, taking my hands in his. I'm so sorry, Rebecca. I should have seen this coming. I should have done something about Kayla's behavior long before now. I leaned my head against his shoulder, too emotionally drained to cry anymore. What are we going to do about the wedding? First, "We're going to call Sophia," he said, his thumb gently stroking the back of my hand. "If anyone can work a miracle in 3 weeks, it's her. And if she can't, well, we'll figure something out. The important thing is that we're getting married. The dress, the venue, the flowers, they're all just details. What matters is us." His words were comforting, but I couldn't help feeling a profound sense of loss. That dress had been more than just fabric and thread. It had been a symbol of our new beginning, a physical manifestation of all my hopes and dreams for our future together. The next morning, we drove to Sophia's boutique as soon as it opened. The Italian designer listened in horror as we explained what had happened, her expressive hands flying to her mouth when I showed her the photos of the ruined dress. I have no words," she said, her accent thickening with emotion. "To destroy such craftsmanship, such art, it is a crime. Is there any way you could make another one in 3 weeks?" I asked, trying to keep the desperation from my voice. "Money isn't an issue. We'll pay whatever it takes." Sophia paced the small showroom, her brow furrowed in concentration. 3 weeks? It is impossible. The beadwork alone took nearly a month. The lace was special ordered from France. My heart sank. I had known it was a long shot, but hearing it confirmed made it real in a way that was almost unbearable. But then Sophia stopped pacing, a thoughtful expression replacing her dismay. Perhaps not the same dress, but something else. Something we can create in 3 weeks that will still be beautiful, still be special. Hope flickered to life in my chest. "You think you could make something else in time?" "For you, Rebecca, I will work day and night," Sophia declared with determination. "It will not be the same as what was lost, but it will be beautiful in its own way. This I promise you." As we left the boutique, I felt a strange mixture of grief and hope. The dress I had fallen in love with was gone forever, but perhaps something new could rise from its ashes. Something that would represent not just our beginning, but our resilience in the face of adversity. Daniel wrapped an arm around my waist as we walked to the car. "Feel any better?" "A little," I admitted. "Sophia's amazing. If anyone can pull this off, it's her." "And Kayla?" he asked hesitantly. "What do you want to do about her being in the wedding? She's still technically one of your bridesmaids." I took a deep breath, considering my answer carefully. This wasn't just about a dress anymore. It was about setting the tone for our future family relationships, about establishing boundaries that would protect our marriage in the years to come. "I think that's up to her," I finally said. "If she wants to be part of our day, she needs to understand the harm she caused and make a genuine effort to make amends. Not just financially, but emotionally too. I won't have someone standing beside me who doesn't support our marriage." Daniel nodded, relief evident in his expression. "I think that's fair. And for what it's worth, I'm still holding firm on the college fund. She needs to learn that she can't just damage things, or people, and expect everything to go back to normal with a half-hearted apology." As we drove home, I stared out the window at the autumn leaves swirling in the breeze. In 3 weeks, I would become Mrs. Daniel Mitchell. The path to that moment had suddenly become much more complicated than I'd ever imagined, but perhaps that was fitting. Marriage, after all, wasn't about perfect days and fairy tale moments. It was about facing challenges together, about building something strong enough to weather any storm. And right now, we were in the middle of a hurricane with my future sister-in-law at its center. The next few days passed in a blur of phone calls, emergency appointments, and constant reassurances from friends and family that everything would work out. My mother cried when she saw the ruined dress, then immediately switched into problem-solving mode, calling every bridal shop within a 100-mile radius to see if they had anything suitable in my size that could be altered in time. Daniel's parents came to Boston the day after the incident. Martha embraced me for a long time when she arrived, whispering apologies in my ear. "I don't know where we went wrong with her," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "But we'll make this right, Rebecca. I promise you that." Richard was more stoic, but I could see the disappointment and embarrassment etched in the lines of his face. He asked to see the dress, wincing visibly when Daniel showed him the photos. "We raised her better than this," was all he said, shaking his head slowly. Kayla had gone radio silent since storming out of my parents' house. According to Martha, she wasn't answering their calls either, communicating only through terse text messages that she was fine and needed space. Part of me was relieved not to deal with her, but another part worried about the long-term implications for our family. Despite everything, she was still going to be my sister-in-law. On Tuesday, 4 days after the dress incident, I received a call from Sophia. "I have been working nonstop," she told me, excitement evident in her voice despite her obvious exhaustion. "I want you to come see what I have created. It is not finished, of course, but I think you will love it." Daniel drove me to the boutique that afternoon. When we arrived, Sophia was waiting, practically vibrating with creative energy. She led me to the back room where she did her design work, gesturing dramatically toward a dress form draped in white fabric. "It is still rough," she cautioned. "The final details will take another week at least, but the structure, the silhouette, this is what I envision for you." I approached the dress form slowly, almost afraid to hope. What Sophia had created wasn't anything like my original dress, but as I circled it, taking in the details, I felt a lump form in my throat. It was beautiful in a completely different way, simpler, more architectural in its lines, with a graceful sweep of fabric that would trail behind me as I walked down the aisle. Where my original dress had been romantic and traditional, this one was modern, bold, unexpected. "What do you think?" Sophia asked anxiously. "I know it is not what you planned, but with the time constraints, I thought perhaps we could embrace something new." "It's stunning," I said honestly, reaching out to touch the luxurious fabric. "I never would have chosen this for myself, but I love it." The relief on Sophia's face was palpable. "Yes, this is what I hoped. Sometimes from disaster comes unexpected beauty, no. Now, we must do a fitting immediately. There is no time to waste." As Sophia pinned and adjusted the dress on my body, I caught Daniel's eye across the room. He was watching with an expression of such tender pride that it made my heart swell. Whatever happened with the dress, with Kayla, with all the details of our wedding, that look was what mattered. That was what I was walking toward. Later that evening, as we were having dinner at our apartment, Daniel's phone rang. He glanced at the screen, his expression instantly hardening. "It's Kayla," he said, showing me the caller ID. I nodded, bracing myself. "Put it on speaker." He answered the call, setting the phone on the table between us. "Hello, Kayla." "Hey." Her voice sounded small, subdued. "Can we talk?" "We're listening," Daniel replied, his tone neutral but guarded. There was a pause, then a shaky breath. "I've been thinking about what happened, about what I did, and I wanted to say I'm sorry, really sorry, not just saying it because Dad made me." I exchanged a glance with Daniel, surprised by the apparent sincerity in her voice. "I spoke to the financial aid office," she continued when neither of us responded. "I can take out a student loan to cover next semester if I need to. And I applied for a job at the campus bookstore. It doesn't pay much, but it's a start." "That's good to hear," Daniel said cautiously. "But why the sudden change of heart?" Another pause. My roommate saw the pictures of the dress, of what I did to it. She totally freaked out on me, said if I was willing to do something that horrible to my own brother and his fiancé, what might I do to her stuff? Kayla's voice caught. And she was right. I've been thinking about it nonstop, about how I would feel if someone did that to something important to me. And I don't know why I did it. I don't know why I've been so awful to Rebecca. I found myself holding my breath, waiting for the other shoe to drop, for the manipulation I'd come to expect from Kayla. But it didn't come. "I don't expect you to forgive me," she continued, her voice small. "But I wanted you to know that I'm going to pay for the dress, no matter how long it takes. And if you still want me at the wedding, I'll be there. But I'll understand if you don't." Daniel looked at me, raising his eyebrows in a silent question. This was my call to make. I took a deep breath, Kayla, I appreciate your apology. I really do. But this isn't something that can be fixed overnight. You've been difficult with me from the beginning. The dress was just the final straw. I know, she admitted quietly. And I'm sorry for that too. I think I was jealous. Daniel was always the one person who was there for me, especially after Mom got sick. And then suddenly, you were there, and he was spending all his time with you, and I felt like I was losing him. It was the most honest thing I'd ever heard her say. For the first time, I glimpsed the insecure young woman beneath the bratty exterior. That doesn't excuse what you did, I said firmly. No, it doesn't, she agreed immediately. Nothing excuses it. I know that now. Daniel cleared his throat. Kayla, I'm going to unfreeze your college fund. I looked at him in surprise. That wasn't what we had discussed. But, he continued, seeing my expression, you're still responsible for paying for Rebecca's dress. Every penny. I expect you to set up a payment plan and stick to it. This isn't going away because you said sorry. I understand, Kayla said, sounding relieved but still subdued. Thank you. I promise I won't let you down again. After we hung up, I turned to Daniel with raised eyebrows. You're unfreezing her account? Just like that? He sighed, running a hand through his hair. I know it seems fast, but I could hear it in her voice. She's genuinely sorry, and keeping her funds frozen might just push her further away, make her resentful all over again. This way, she still has the responsibility of paying for the dress, but she knows we're not trying to punish her indefinitely. I wasn't entirely convinced, but I understood his reasoning. Family relationships were complicated, messy things. There was rarely a clean, simple solution that would satisfy everyone. So, is she still a bridesmaid? Daniel asked cautiously. I considered the question carefully. Part of me wanted to exclude her, to make her feel the pain of being left out the way she had made me feel like an outsider for so long. But another part recognized that this could be a turning point, a chance to build a different kind of relationship moving forward. Let's take it one step at a time, I finally said. She can come to the wedding as a guest. If things continue to improve between us, maybe she can have a small role. But I'm not ready to have her standing beside me just yet. Daniel nodded, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. That's more than fair. And for what it's worth, I'm proud of you. Most people in your position wouldn't be willing to give her any chance at all. I shrugged, surprising myself with my own response. She's family, or she will be in 3 weeks. And family is complicated, but it's also permanent. We have to find a way forward. As I said the words, I realized I truly meant them. The wedding was just the beginning of our life together, and that life would include Kayla in some capacity. The question now was what that relationship would look like, and whether the fragile peace we'd established could survive the next 3 weeks of wedding preparations. The following weekend, I went for my second fitting with Sophia. The dress was coming together beautifully, evolving from the rough framework I'd seen before into something truly extraordinary. The simplicity of the design actually highlighted the quality of the fabric and the precision of Sophia's craftsmanship. Where the original dress had been a showcase of intricate details, this one was a study in perfect lines and impeccable structure. You move differently in this dress, Sophia observed as I turned slowly before the mirrors. More confident, I think. Like a woman who knows her own mind. She was right. There was something empowering about the clean silhouette, the architectural elegance. I stood taller, my posture more assured. Maybe it was the dress itself, or maybe it was everything I'd been through in the past week. The confrontation, the tears, the difficult conversations, and finally, the tentative steps toward resolution. I think this dress was meant to be, I told Sophia, smoothing my hands over the luxurious fabric. Sometimes the universe has different plans than we do. Sophia smiled, adjusting the sweep of the skirt. This is what I always say. In my country, there is an old saying, God closes a door but opens a window. Perhaps this new dress is your window, yes? As I changed back into my regular clothes, my phone buzzed with a text from Daniel. Check your email. Kay sent something. Curious and slightly apprehensive, I pulled up my email as soon as I left the boutique. There was indeed a message from Kayla, sent to both Daniel and me. The subject line read simply, "First payment." The email contained a receipt for a bank transfer of $250 to my account, along with a brief note. I know it's not much compared to what the dress cost, but it's my first paycheck from the bookstore. I'll send more next month. Kay. I stared at the screen, a complicated mix of emotions washing over me. It wasn't the amount that mattered. $250 was indeed a drop in the bucket compared to the thousands the dress had cost. It was the gesture. Kayla had taken her first paycheck and, instead of spending it on herself, had sent it to us without being prompted. When I got home, I found Daniel sitting at our kitchen table, a thoughtful expression on his face. "Did you see Kayla's email?" he asked as I set down my purse. I nodded, pulling out a chair across from him. "What do you think?" "I think she's trying," he said simply. "Really trying, maybe for the first time in her life." I had to agree. In the 2 weeks since the dress incident, Kayla had been uncharacteristically humble and cooperative. She'd stayed in regular contact with Daniel, keeping him updated on her job at the bookstore and her meetings with the financial aid office. She'd even sent me a text asking if there was anything she could do to help with the wedding preparations, an offer I hadn't yet taken her up on. "Mom called earlier," Daniel continued. "She wanted to know if we'd decided about Kayla's role in the wedding." I sighed, running a hand through my hair. This was the question I'd been avoiding. With just over a week until our wedding day, we couldn't put it off any longer. "What do you think we should do?" Daniel was quiet for a moment, considering. "I think that's entirely up to you, Rebecca. She hurt you, not me. Whatever you decide, I'll support it." I appreciated his stance, but I also knew this wasn't just about me. This was about our future family, about setting the right tone for the years to come. "I've been thinking about it a lot," I admitted, "and I'm still not comfortable having her as a bridesmaid. It feels forced, like we're pretending nothing happened." Daniel nodded, no judgment in his expression. "That makes sense. But," I continued, "I do think she should have some role, something that acknowledges her as part of the family, but also respects what we've been through." "Like what?" I had actually given this considerable thought. "What if she does a reading during the ceremony? It's an honor, but it's brief, and she wouldn't be standing up there with us the whole time." A slow smile spread across Daniel's face. "I think that's perfect. It's generous without being fake." That evening, we called Kayla together. Her voice was cautious when she answered, as if she was bracing for bad news. "We got your email," I said after the initial greetings. "Thank you for the payment. It means a lot that you're taking this seriously." "Of course," she replied quickly. "Like I said, I know it's not much, but I'll keep sending what I can every month." "We appreciate that," Daniel said. "But that's not why we're calling. We wanted to talk to you about the wedding." There was a pause. Then Kayla asked hesitantly, "Am I still invited?" The vulnerability in her voice caught me off guard. For the first time, I realized how much this situation had shaken her as well. She'd risked her relationship with her only brother, faced real consequences from her parents, and been forced to confront some uncomfortable truths about herself. In some ways, perhaps this had been a wake-up call she needed. "Of course you're still invited," I assured her. "In fact, we'd like you to have a special role in the ceremony. Not as a bridesmaid, but as a reader. There's a passage about love and family that I think would be perfect for you to share." The silence on the other end of the line stretched for so long that I wondered if the call had dropped. Then I heard it. A soft sniffling sound. Kayla was crying. "I'd be honored," she finally managed, her voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for not cutting me out completely. I would have understood if you did." "That's not what family does," I said quietly, surprising myself with how much I meant it. "We find a way forward, even when it's hard." After we hung up, Daniel pulled me into a tight hug. "Have I told you lately how amazing you are?" he murmured against my hair. I laughed softly, melting into his embrace. I'm not amazing. I'm just trying to start our marriage the right way, with compassion, even when it's difficult. He pulled back slightly to look into my eyes. That's what makes you amazing. You could have held on to the anger, the hurt. No one would have blamed you. But instead, you're choosing to build bridges. As I laid in bed that night, I reflected on the unexpected journey of the past 2 weeks. My perfect wedding dress was gone, replaced by something entirely different yet somehow more fitting. My relationship with Kayla had been fundamentally altered, damaged in some ways, but perhaps strengthened in others through hard-earned honesty and accountability. Nothing had turned out as I'd planned. But maybe, just maybe, it was turning out better than I could have imagined. Not easier, not simpler, but richer and more authentic. A wedding wasn't just about pretty dresses and perfect photos. It was about two families coming together, with all their flaws and complications. It was about building a foundation strong enough to weather whatever storms might come. And as I drifted off to sleep, I realized that our wedding story, complete with its drama, tears, and tentative reconciliation, might just be the perfect beginning to our marriage after all. The week before our wedding passed in a whirlwind of final preparations, last-minute changes, and the inevitable stress that comes with bringing together two families for such a significant event. My parents arrived from Chicago on Wednesday, eager to help with anything that needed doing, and, I suspected, curious to see how the situation with Kayla was unfolding. "This new dress is extraordinary," my mother said, after I showed her the photos from my latest fitting. "Much more sophisticated than the original, if I'm being honest." "Mom," I laughed, surprised by her candor. "You cried when you saw the first one." She waved a dismissive hand. "I cry at everything, you know that. But this one, it's got something special. It looks like you, Rebecca. Strong, elegant, unexpected." Her words stayed with me as I went for my final fitting the next day. Sophia had worked miracles, completing in 3 weeks what would normally take 3 months. The dress was stunning, a column of ivory silk that flowed like water when I moved, with architectural details at the shoulders and a dramatic open back that made me feel both classic and daring at the same time. "It's perfect," I told Sophia, blinking back tears as I took in my reflection. "Better than perfect. It's right." Sophia beamed, clearly exhausted but satisfied with her creation. "Sometimes the universe knows better than we do what we need," she said, echoing my own thoughts from our previous fitting. That afternoon, I met Kayla for coffee, our first one-on-one meeting since the dress incident. She'd arrived in Boston the night before with her parents and was staying at their hotel. I suggested a small cafe near Sophia's boutique, neutral territory where we could talk without the pressure of family watching our every interaction. Kayla was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table with her hands wrapped around a mug. She looked different somehow, less polished than usual, with her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail and minimal makeup. More like a college student, and less like the carefully curated image she usually presented. "Thanks for meeting me," I said, sliding into the chair across from her after ordering my own coffee. She nodded, clearly nervous. "Thanks for asking me to. I wasn't sure you'd want to see me before the wedding. I thought it might be good for us to clear the air," I said, choosing my words carefully. "Tomorrow's the rehearsal, and I don't want things to be awkward." "Yeah." She stared down at her coffee, then took a deep breath and looked up to meet my eyes. "I've been practicing the reading. I hope I don't mess it up." "You'll do fine," I assured her. "But that's not why I wanted to talk." Kayla's shoulders tensed slightly. "Okay." I took a sip of my coffee, gathering my thoughts. "I want to understand something. All these years, I've tried so hard to connect with you, to build some kind of relationship, but it felt like you were determined to keep me at a distance, or worse, to actively push me away. The dress was just the culmination of a pattern, and I need to know why." Kayla was quiet for a long moment, her fingers tracing the rim of her mug. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft but steady. "When Mom got sick, I was 14. The doctors weren't sure she was going to make it. Dad was a mess, trying to hold everything together but falling apart inside. Daniel became everything to me during that time. He made sure I ate, helped me with homework, sat with me during the worst nights when we didn't know if Mom would come home from the hospital. I nodded, familiar with the broad strokes of this story, but not the emotional details Kayla was sharing now. When Mom finally recovered, things never really went back to normal, she continued. Dad threw himself into work, Mom was focused on her recovery, and Daniel became more like a parent to me than a brother. He was the one constant in my life. She looked up at me, vulnerability plain in her expression. Then he met you, and suddenly he wasn't just mine anymore. Understanding dawned, pieces falling into place. You were afraid of losing him. I know it sounds stupid and selfish, Kayla said, a flush creeping up her neck. You made him so happy. Anyone could see that. But every time he chose to spend time with you instead of coming home for a weekend, every time he talked about your future together, I felt like I was being replaced. Like I wasn't important anymore. So you pushed me away before I could push you away, I said softly, recognizing the defense mechanism for what it was. Kayla nodded, looking miserable. And then it just became a habit. Being difficult, finding reasons to dislike you. It was easier than admitting I was terrified of being left behind. She met my gaze directly. But taking your dress, that wasn't planned. I saw it hanging there when I stopped by your parents' house to drop off some RSVPs Daniel had asked me to collect. And something snapped. Like if I could ruin this one perfect thing, maybe the wedding wouldn't happen, and everything could go back to the way it was. Oh, Kayla, I sighed, not sure whether to feel angry or sad at this confession. I know it was crazy, she said quickly. And the moment I saw Daniel's face when he saw what I'd done, I knew I'd crossed a line I could never uncross. I wasn't just hurting you. I was hurting him too. The one person who had always been there for me. Her voice broke slightly. I've never felt so ashamed of anything in my life. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of her confession hanging between us. I thought about all the times I'd tried to reach out to her, all the rebuffs and cold shoulders, all the little digs and passive-aggressive comments. Seen through this new lens, they took on a different meaning. Not malice, but fear. Not hatred, but a desperate attempt to protect herself from perceived abandonment. I can't promise we're going to be best friends overnight, I finally said. Too much has happened for that. But I can promise you this. You're not losing Daniel. You're gaining a sister. If you'll let me be that for you. Tears welled in Kayla's eyes, one escaping to track down her cheek. I don't deserve that. Not after everything I've done. Maybe not, I agreed honestly. But that's the thing about family. It's not always about what we deserve. Sometimes it's about what we need. Kayla wiped at her cheek, a watery smile appearing. Daniel's lucky to have you. We're lucky to have each other, I corrected gently. All of us. Even when we mess up spectacularly. As we finished our coffee and prepared to leave, Kayla hesitated, then pulled a small package from her bag. I got you something. It's not much, especially compared to what I took from you, but she pushed it across the table. Curious, I unwrapped the small box to find a delicate silver bracelet inside. Small charms dangled from it, a tiny dress form, a miniature book, and what looked like a small key. The dress is obvious, Kayla explained, watching my reaction nervously. The book is because Daniel told me you love reading historical novels. And the key… She paused. The key is symbolic. It's a key to our family. Because no matter what happened before, you're one of us now. I felt a lump form in my throat as I fastened the bracelet around my wrist. It was a small gesture, but a meaningful one. Perhaps the first genuine attempt at connection that Kayla had ever initiated. Thank you, I said simply. I'll wear it tomorrow. As we walked out of the cafe together, not quite friends but no longer adversaries, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. The journey to this moment had been far from smooth, but perhaps that was fitting. Marriage, after all, wasn't about perfect days and fairy tale moments. It was about building something strong enough to weather any storm, including the hurricanes sometimes created by the people we love. The morning of our wedding dawned clear and crisp, a perfect November day with azure skies and just enough chill in the air to make the warm glow of the venue feel inviting. I woke early, a flutter of nervous excitement in my stomach that had nothing to do with doubts and everything to do with anticipation. My bridesmaids arrived at the hotel suite I'd booked for wedding preparations, bringing coffee, pastries, and the kind of cheerful energy only a wedding day can inspire. My best friend Jenna immediately took charge, setting up a timeline for hair, makeup, and champagne breaks with military precision. Okay, so we have the photographer arriving at 11, which gives us plenty of time to get you ready for the first look at 1:30, she announced, consulting her phone where she'd created a detailed schedule. The ceremony isn't until 4, so we have a buffer if anything runs late. I smiled, grateful for her organizational skills and even more grateful for the normalcy of the moment. After all the drama of the past month, it was refreshing to focus on the ordinary details of a wedding day. Lipstick shades and hairpins, something borrowed and something blue. My mother arrived with my dress, carefully transported from Sophia's boutique the previous day. She hung it reverently on the designated hook in the suite's dressing area, stepping back to admire it once more. "I still can't get over how stunning this is," she said, adjusting one of the carefully structured folds. "Sometimes blessings come in strange packages, don't they?" I nodded, thinking of the unexpected journey that had led to this moment. "Very strange packages," I agreed with a small smile. As the morning progressed, I found myself surprisingly calm. The suite was a flurry of activity, bridesmaids rotating through hair and makeup stations, my mother fielding calls from the florist and the venue coordinator, Jenna ensuring everyone stayed on schedule. But I felt centered in the midst of the chaos, focused on the significance of the day rather than its trappings. Around noon, there was a knock at the door. Jenna answered it, returning with a small gift box and a curious expression. "It's from Kayla," she said, handing it to me. She asked the concierge to deliver it. Intrigued, I opened the box to find a delicate hair comb nestled on a bed of tissue paper. Tiny pearls and crystals adorned it, catching the light when I lifted it out. A note was tucked underneath. "Something new to go with your new dress. Thank you for giving me a second chance." "Kay, that's beautiful," my mother remarked, examining the comb over my shoulder. "Would you like me to incorporate it into your hairstyle?" I nodded, unexpectedly moved by the gesture. The rehearsal dinner the night before had gone surprisingly well, with Kayla performing her reading flawlessly during the practice run and making a genuine effort to interact pleasantly with everyone. This gift felt like another small step in the rebuilding of our relationship, a peace offering and perhaps the beginning of something new. As the afternoon progressed and the time for the ceremony drew nearer, I found myself thinking about the journey that had brought me to this point. Not just the drama of the past month, but the entire 4-year relationship with Daniel. The ups and downs, the growth, the lessons learned, the love that had deepened and matured through every challenge. When it was finally time to put on my dress, my mother and Jenna helped me step into it carefully, securing the hidden closures and adjusting the fall of the fabric. The weight of it felt substantial, grounding, a physical reminder of the commitment I was about to make. "Oh, Rebecca," my mother breathed, her eyes filling with tears as she stepped back to look at me. "You're absolutely radiant." Jenna nodded in agreement, her own eyes suspiciously bright. "Daniel is going to lose his mind when he sees you." I turned to look in the full-length mirror, and for a moment, I hardly recognized myself. The woman looking back at me seemed stronger somehow, more assured. The dress Sophia had created hugged my figure perfectly, the architectural details framing my shoulders and collarbone in a way that felt both powerful and feminine. My hair was swept up in an elegant style, with Kayla's comb adding just the right amount of sparkle. Around my wrist, the charm bracelet she had given me caught the light. "Ready for the first look?" Jenna asked, checking her watch. "The photographer is all set up in the garden." I nodded, a calm certainty settling over me. "I'm ready." The hotel garden was a secluded spot with late blooming flowers and a small ornamental pond. Daniel was already there when I arrived, his back to me as arranged. standing tall in his charcoal gray suit. My heart skipped a beat at the sight of him, just as it had the first time we met. The photographer gave me a thumbs up, signaling me to approach. I moved quietly across the stone path until I was just a few steps behind Daniel. "You can turn around now," I said softly. The moment Daniel turned and saw me in my dress for the first time was one I'll never forget. His eyes widened, then immediately filled with tears. For several seconds he just stared, seemingly unable to speak. "Rebecca," he finally managed, his voice thick with emotion. "You're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." He closed the distance between us, taking my hands in his. "This dress," he said, shaking his head in wonder. "It's like it was made for you all along." "In a way, I think it was," I replied, understanding washing over me. "Sometimes we have to lose what we think we want to find what we're meant to have." Daniel smiled, gently tucking a stray strand of hair behind my ear. "Wise words from my almost wife." "Almost wife," I repeated, liking the sound of it. "In just a few hours, it'll be just wife. The longest few hours of my life," he murmured, leaning in to kiss me softly. The photographer captured the moment, along with dozens of others as we walked through the garden together, talking quietly and savoring these last few moments before our separate journeys would officially become one shared path. As we were finishing up the photos, I noticed a figure hovering near the garden entrance. Kayla, already dressed in the deep burgundy dress we'd chosen for family members, looking uncertain about whether to approach. Making a decision, I waved her over. "Come join us for a few photos," I called. "Family ones." The surprise and gratitude that flashed across her face made me certain I'd made the right choice. She walked over, smoothing her dress nervously. "You look amazing," she said, her eyes taking in my dress. "Both of you do." "Thank you for the hair comb," I said, touching it lightly. "It's perfect." Kayla smiled, a genuine smile without any of the defensive edge I'd grown accustomed to seeing. "I'm glad you like it, and thank you for including me today. I know you didn't have to." Daniel put an arm around each of us, pulling us both into a loose embrace. My favorite women, getting along at last. This might be the best wedding gift of all. The photographer captured the moment, the three of us laughing together, a new chapter beginning not just for Daniel and me, but for our entire family constellation. It wasn't perfect. There was still healing to be done, trust to be rebuilt, relationships to be redefined. But it was a start, and sometimes that's all you need, just enough light to see the path forward. As we separated to finish our preparations for the ceremony, I caught Daniel's hand, giving it a gentle squeeze. "See you at the altar," I whispered, my heart full to bursting with love for this man and the life we were about to build together. "I'll be the one waiting for you," he promised, lifting my hand to his lips for one last kiss. And in that moment, I knew with absolute certainty that whatever challenges lay ahead, and there would be many, we would face them together, stronger for having weathered this first storm. The dress that had been ruined, the tears that had been shed, the difficult conversations that had been had, all of it had been necessary perhaps to bring us to this moment of clarity and purpose. Sometimes I realized, the most beautiful beginnings arise from what initially seems like disaster. Sometimes we have to lose what we think matters to discover what truly does. By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Daniel, you may kiss your bride. The cheers and applause that erupted as Daniel pulled me into our first kiss as a married couple were deafening. I could feel his smile against my lips, the happiness radiating from him matching my own overwhelming joy. We'd done it. Despite everything, we were married. The reception that followed was everything we'd hoped for. Elegant but relaxed, formal but fun. A true celebration of not just our union, but the merging of our families and friend groups into one community of support. The venue, a restored historic building with exposed brick walls and soaring ceilings, was transformed by candlelight and flowers into a warm, intimate space despite its size. I lost count of how many people commented on my dress, each compliment reinforcing that the unexpected change had been for the better. Sophia herself attended the reception, beaming with pride whenever someone asked about her creation. Sometimes, the universe conspires to give us what we need, not what we think we want, she told one admiring guest, winking at me over their shoulder. Even Daniel's grandmother, a formidable woman with exacting standards and strong opinions, pulled me aside to express her approval. "That dress," she said, her voice carrying the slight tremor of advanced age, "is the most elegant thing I've seen at a wedding in decades. None of that frothy nonsense young women usually choose. You look like a woman who knows her own mind." I thanked her, thinking how her assessment echoed what Sophia had said during my fittings. Perhaps the dress really had revealed something about me that I hadn't fully recognized myself, a strength and clarity of purpose that would serve me well in the years ahead. As the evening progressed, I found myself watching Kayla, curious about how she was navigating the event. To my surprise, she seemed to be making a genuine effort to engage with everyone, helping elderly relatives to their seats, chatting with my college friends, even assisting the catering staff when there was a minor issue with the cake display. The reading she'd delivered during the ceremony had been perfect. Her voice clear and steady, her emotion evident but controlled. During a brief lull in the festivities, while Daniel was deep in conversation with some cousins who had traveled from overseas, Kayla approached me at our table, 2 glasses of champagne in hand. "For the bride," she said, offering me one. "You haven't had a chance to sit down all night." I accepted the glass gratefully, gesturing for her to join me. "Thanks. It's been a whirlwind." She settled into the chair next to mine, smoothing her dress over her knees. "Everything turned out beautifully. You and Daniel look so happy." "We are," I confirmed, taking a sip of the champagne. "It's been a perfect day." Kayla nodded, a hint of wistfulness crossing her face. "I know I almost ruined it. I'll never be able to fully make up for that." "But you're trying," I pointed out. "That counts for something. For a lot, actually." She twisted her own champagne glass between her fingers, gathering her thoughts. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said at the cafe, about gaining a sister instead of losing a brother. I've never had a sister before. I'm not sure I know how to be one." I smiled, touched by her vulnerability. "I'm an only child, remember? I don't exactly have experience with siblings either. Maybe we can figure it out together." "I'd like that," she said quietly. And I meant what I said about paying for the dress. "I know tonight isn't the time to talk about it, but I've worked out a plan. It'll take a while, but I'll make it right." I considered her for a moment, then made a decision. "The payments you've already made show you're serious about taking responsibility. That matters more than the money itself. Let's consider it settled." Kayla's eyes widened. "What? No, I can't let you do that. I need to make this right." "You are making it right," I assured her. "By being here today, by making an effort to change, by committing to a different kind of relationship moving forward, that's worth more than any amount of money." She looked down, blinking rapidly. "I don't deserve your forgiveness." "Maybe not," I acknowledged honestly. "But as someone wise recently told me, family isn't always about what we deserve. Sometimes it's about what we need." A small smile tugged at her lips as she recognized her own words. Using my words against me. That's definitely something a sister would do. We both laughed, the tension between us easing further. It wasn't perfect, and it wasn't complete, but it was progress, a foundation we could build on in the years to come. Daniel appeared then, slightly breathless from dancing with what seemed like every female relative over the age of 60. "What are you two laughing about?" he asked, his face alight with happiness at seeing us together. "Sister stuff," Kayla replied, surprising me with her quick response. "You wouldn't understand." Daniel's smile grew even wider if that was possible. "Well, don't let me interrupt. I just came to see if my wife wanted to dance." He extended his hand to me, the word wife clearly delighting him as much as it did me. I took his hand, allowing him to pull me to my feet. "Your wife would love to dance." As he led me toward the dance floor, I glanced back at Kayla, who raised her champagne glass in a small toast, her expression peaceful. In that moment, I felt a surge of gratitude for the strange, difficult journey that had brought us all to this point. The ruined dress that had forced uncomfortable truths into the open, the confrontations that had cleared the air, the painful but necessary growth that had resulted. Daniel drew me close as we joined the other couples on the dance floor, his arms secure around my waist, his eyes never leaving mine. "Happy?" he asked softly. "Completely," I assured him, meaning it with every fiber of my being. Everything turned out exactly as it was meant to. And as we swayed together under the warm glow of chandeliers, surrounded by the people we loved most in the world, I knew it was true. The wedding had been perfect, not because everything had gone according to plan, but because the deviations from that plan had revealed what truly mattered. Not the dress or the venue or the flowers, but the promises we'd made to each other. Not the perfect facade of family harmony, but the messy, complicated, real relationships that would sustain us through whatever life might bring. 6 months later, on a warm spring afternoon, a package arrived at our apartment. Inside was a framed photograph, the three of us in the garden on our wedding day, Daniel with an arm around each of us, all of us laughing at something now forgotten. A note was tucked into the corner of the frame. "To new beginnings and the family we're becoming. Love, Kayla." I hung it in our living room, right next to our official wedding portrait. 2 moments, 2 versions of the same day, one formal and posed, one spontaneous and real. Both precious, both true. The dress that had been ruined now existed only in memory and a few photographs from early fittings. But the dress I'd actually worn, the one born from disaster and created in a rush of inspiration and determination, was carefully preserved in our closet, a reminder that sometimes our greatest disappointments can lead to our most meaningful victories. And Kayla? She graduated college the following year with honors. Daniel and I sat proudly in the audience, cheering as she crossed the stage. The frozen college fund had long since been thawed, but something more important had been established in its place. Boundaries, respect, and the beginnings of a genuine bond between us. She still occasionally sent small payments toward the dress, despite my insistence that it wasn't necessary. "It's not about the money anymore," she explained when I brought it up at a family dinner. "It's about keeping my word, about being the kind of person who makes things right." I couldn't argue with that. Some lessons are worth their weight in gold, or, in this case, in wedding dress fabric. Sometimes the most valuable gifts come wrapped in the most unexpected packages. And sometimes, just sometimes, a ruined wedding dress can be the first step toward a stronger family.